Saturday, the 13th of April, 2024. In the affluent eastern suburbs of Sydney, Australia, the afternoon is unfolding with typical weekend rhythm. The autumn weather is mild. The beaches are full. At the Westfield Bondi Junction Shopping Centre, thousands of people are going about the mundane rituals of modern life. They are buying groceries, trying on clothes, grabbing coffee, and spending time with their families. It is a space designed for leisure and safety, a controlled environment of commerce. But at 3:10 p.m., a man enters the complex who has fallen out of step with this society. He is 40 years old. He is homeless. He has been off his medication for 5 years. And in his backpack, he is carrying a 30-centimeter K-bar USMC combat knife. This is the same brand that prosecutors allege that used by Brian Kohberger in the November 2022 Idaho killings. In a span of less than 6 minutes, this Saturday afternoon will dissolve into the deadliest act of mass violence Australia has seen in a decade. But this story is not just about those 6 minutes of terror. It is about the 18 years of slow, systemic collapse that led to them. It is about a series of missed phone calls, ignored emails, and bureaucratic gaps that allowed a man with a severe, known history of psychosis to drift untethered into a crowd of innocent strangers. The Bondi Junction attack left 6 people dead and a nation asking how this could happen. Today, we are not just looking at the crime. We are examining the coronial inquest that followed. We are going to reconstruct the timeline, the investigation, and the tragic administrative failures that turned a treatable patient into a mass murderer. To understand the magnitude of what occurred on April 13th, we must first understand who was in the building that day. Mass casualty events often reduce victims to statistics, numbers on a screen that denote the scale of the tragedy. But the coroner's inquest into the Bondi Junction stabbings made a specific, concerted effort to humanize those who were lost. These were not random statistics. They were the fabric of the community. Dawn Singleton was 25 years old. She was the daughter of John Singleton, one of Australia's most prominent businessmen, but she was carving out her own path. She worked as an assistant at the White Fox Boutique, a local fashion retailer. Her employer would later tell the court that Dawn felt like a family member, someone with her whole life ahead of her. On this Saturday, she was standing in line at the sourdough bakery, simply waiting to buy bread. She was days away from sending out save-the-date cards for her wedding. Standing just meters away was 47-year-old Jade Young. Jade was a pillar of the local community, an architect, and a devoted member of the Bronte Surf Life-Saving Club. She was a mother who had spent years protecting others in the ocean. Her brother, Peter, would tell the inquest that her loss left a void that could never be filled. She was described as the glue of her family. Yixuan Chung was 27. She was an international student from China, navigating life in a new country, studying to build a future. Her family, devastated by the news, traveled to Australia in the wake of the attack, but requested privacy. They declined to release official images, a silence that speaks volumes to their grief. She was killed simply for being in the wrong place, outside a clothing store. 55-year-old Pikria Darkia was a woman of immense cultural depth. Originally from Tbilisi, Georgia, she was fluent in 3 languages: English, Russian, and Georgian. She held a degree in performance art and had completed business studies in Sydney. She was a mother and a grandmother, a woman who had built a life on 2 continents, bridging cultures through art and design. Then there was Faraz Tahir, 30 years old, a refugee from Pakistan. Faraz had fled persecution in his home country, seeking the safety and stability of Australia only a year prior. He was a member of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, a group often targeted for their beliefs. He had found work as a security guard. April 13th was his very first shift at Westfield Bondi Junction. He didn't die fleeing. He died running toward the danger, trying to protect strangers in a country that had promised him safety. And finally, Ashley Good, 38 years old, a mother. She was at the center with her 9-month-old daughter. When the violence began, Ashley did what any mother would instinctively do. She used her own body as a shield. Even after sustaining fatal wounds, Her only thought was for her child. She managed to pass her injured baby to two strangers, begging them to help, before she collapsed. She died in the hospital that evening, but her daughter survived. These 6 individuals represented a cross-section of modern Australia. Different ages, different backgrounds, brought together by the randomness of a Saturday afternoon shopping trip. The timeline of the attack is precise, reconstructed through a network of 700 CCTV cameras and police radio logs. It reveals a chilling degree of preparation mixed with chaotic execution. The sequence begins early. At 6:26 a.m., the perpetrator, Joel Cauchi, leaves the Maroubra area where he has been sleeping rough. He travels to the Kennard's self-storage facility in Waterloo. He has a small rented locker here. He spends an hour and a half inside the facility. Surveillance footage captures him engaging in mundane tasks, charging his phone, catching a brief nap, changing his clothes. But then, the footage captures something else. He takes a large K-bar hunting knife out of a sheath and a box. He moves it between bags. He is making a selection. He leaves, but returns at 11:10 a.m. to retrieve a backpack. The knife is now hidden inside. He arrives at Westfield Bondi Junction in the afternoon. At 3:10 p.m., he enters the center, wearing a sports jersey. He walks around for 10 minutes, then leaves. This entry and exit has been analyzed by forensic psychologists. Was it reconnaissance? Was it hesitation? We will never know for sure. But at 3:22 p.m., he walks back in. He joins the queue at the sourdough bakery. The violence begins with terrifying abruptness. At 3:32 p.m. and 57 seconds, after fidgeting in line, Cauchi pulls the knife from his backpack. Dawn Singleton is standing right in front of him. He stabs her. She falls. The people around her are confused. The motions are fast, and the reality of a stabbing is not immediately processed by the human brain. 4 seconds later, 4 seconds, he moves south and fatally stabs Jade Young. Cauchi begins to move through the center with speed. He is not running in a blind panic. He is moving from target to target. Outside the Lululemon store, he injures a woman. Outside Cotton On, another injury. At 3:33 p.m. and 18 seconds, just 21 seconds after the first attack, he reaches the storefront of Style Runner and fatally wounds Yishuan Chung. Chaos is now rippling through the mall. Screams are audible, but the security response is lagging behind the speed of the violence. At 3:33 p.m. and 28 seconds, security guards Mohammed Taha and Faraz Tahir, on his first shift, spot the commotion. They move toward the danger. Cauchi encounters Ashley Good and her baby outside AJ Athletica at 3:34 p.m. This is the most harrowing moment of the footage. He attacks the pram. Ashley Good runs back into the fray to fight him off, sustaining her fatal injuries to save her child. Simultaneously, the first 000 call is logged. Cauchi turns north. He encounters the security guards. He stabs Faraz Tahir fatally and wounds Mohammed Taha. He continues running. At 3:34 p.m. and 51 seconds, he kills Pikria Darkia outside the Chanel boutique. In less than 3 minutes, 16 people have been stabbed. 6 are dying. The shopping center is in lockdown, but the alarm system has not yet sounded. While the chaos is unfolding in Bondi, the identity of the man with the knife is unknown. But as NSW police secure the scene and the identification process begins, a much darker, longer narrative comes to light. This wasn't a sudden snap. This was a slow-motion car crash 20 years in the making. The man is identified as Joel Cauchi, 40 years old, and as detectives dig into his history, they find 2 distinct lives. The first life is one of managed illness. In 2001, at age 17, Cauchi was diagnosed with schizophrenia in Toowoomba, Queensland. It was a severe diagnosis, but for over a decade, the system worked. He was treated in the public mental health system. He took his medication. He finished university. His parents described him as a brilliant student. For 18 years, he was stable. But in 2012, a critical shift occurred. Cauchi moved from the public system to a private psychiatrist, Dr. Andrea Boroslavac. This move, while seemingly benign, severed the link between his treatment and the state's safety net. The inquest identified 2019 as the beginning of the end. Under the care of his private psychiatrist, a decision was made to gradually reduce Cauchi's antipsychotic medication. By mid-2019, he was off medication entirely. During the inquest, a panel of 5 expert psychiatrists reviewed this decision. Their conclusion was unanimous and damning. They stated that the psychiatrist missed opportunities to reintroduce medication. When confronted with this in court, Dr. Borislavac initially claimed medication wouldn't have stopped the attack, a statement she was forced to withdraw under cross-examination, admitting it was conjecture. The result of this cessation was predictable and catastrophic. By 2020, Cauchi had drifted away from his family. He moved to Brisbane. He began sleeping in his car, then on the streets. He became obsessed with knives. This leads us to the most frustrating aspect of the investigation: the missed chances. Between 2021 and 2023, Cauchi was on the radar of Queensland police multiple times. The most critical moment occurred 15 months before the massacre. On January 8, 2023, Cauchi called the police on his own father. Why? Because his father had confiscated his knife collection, including a K-bar knife identical to the murder weapon. Police arrived at the family home. Body-worn video played at the inquest shows a frantic family.
Joel Cauchi was anxious about his mental health. He didn't want to get unwell. He wanted to get support and do the right thing. A nurse who treated him in Queensland from 2015 to 2017 said Cauchi reported an improvement in quality of life as his schizophrenia medication was gradually reduced because of the side effects.
The officers on scene recognized this was a mental health crisis. But here, the law failed them. Under Queensland's Emergency Examination Authority, police can only detain someone if they pose an imminent risk to themselves or others. Cauchi, despite his history, was calm in that specific moment. The police felt their hands were tied. They left. One officer sent an email to Queensland Health raising concerns. Due to understaffing, that email went unnoticed. It was never followed up. Dr. Harry McConnell, a neuropsychiatrist, testified that Cauchi had fallen through the cracks of a fragmented system. Communication between police, public health, private doctors, and the family was non-existent. By late 2023, Cauchi was living a transient life, traveling between Queensland and New South Wales. NSW police detectives later analyzed his digital life. It painted a picture of a lonely, deteriorating mind. He searched for how to find a woman, dating advice, and what women look for in men. But these searches for connection were mixed with searches for mass stabbings, serial killers, and combat knives. Initially, police speculated that he specifically targeted women during the attack. Commissioner Karen Webb noted it was obvious. However, the lead detective, Chief Inspector Andrew Marks, later testified that there was no concrete evidence of gender-based targeting. Rather, it was the indiscriminate violence of florid psychosis. Toxicology would later confirm he had cannabis in his system, a substance experts noted is the most potent and proven cause of exacerbating schizophrenia. On April 13, 2024, all these factors, the untreated psychosis, the isolation, the weapon obsession, the systemic silence, converged at Westfield Bondi Junction. Back in the shopping center, the clock hits 3:34 p.m. A 000 call goes out. Inspector Amy Scott is nearby on a routine matter. She hears the call. She drives to the center. She arrives at 3:37 p.m. She is alone. The footage of Inspector Scott's entry is a study in courage. As she enters, civilians are fleeing away from the danger. She runs toward it. Bystanders, some armed with chairs, point her toward level 4. Inspector Scott would later testify that she felt nauseous. She resigned herself to the fact that she might die. But when she heard people screaming that he was killing people, she knew she couldn't wait for backup. She tracks Cauchi down. He is on the upper level. He turns. He sees her. In the CCTV footage shown at the inquest, Cauchi does not surrender. He raises the knife. He breaks into a run, charging directly at the lone officer. Inspector Scott waits until he is just meters away. She has no choice. She fires 3 rounds. 2 shots hit Cauchi, one in the shoulder, one in the neck. The third hits a plantar box. He collapses. The threat is neutralized. Inspector Scott, just seconds after fighting for her life, holsters her weapon and immediately begins CPR on the man who just tried to kill her. But it is too late. Joel Cauchi dies at the scene. From the moment Inspector Scott entered the building to the moment she fired, only 1 minute and 19 seconds had elapsed. The immediate aftermath was a blur of triage and trauma. But as the dust settled, the inquest began to dissect not just the crime, but the society that produced it. The inquest, led by State Coroner Teresa O'Sullivan, has become an unprecedented investigation into systemic failure. It revealed that Westfield's security control room was unmanned at the start of the attack because the operator was on a bathroom break. It revealed that the alarm didn't sound until a minute after Cauchi was shot. But the primary focus remains on mental health. The tragedy at Bondi Junction has forced a national conversation about the gap between public and private care. How can a man be treated for 18 years, then simply opt out of the system and disappear into homelessness and psychosis? Experts are calling for better data sharing, so that when police meet a man like Cauchi on the street, they can see his history. They are calling for corresponder models, where mental health nurses ride along with police. There will be no criminal trial. There is no defendant to sentence. The justice here must come in the form of change. A permanent memorial is being planned for Bondi Junction. Not a statue, but a garden, a place for quiet reflection. It is a tribute to Dawn, Jade, Ishwan, Pikriya, Faraz, and Ashley. The inquest findings are due in late 2025. They are expected to recommend sweeping changes to mental health laws and shopping center security. But for the families of the victims, and for the thousands who were there that day, the timeline of April 13th will never truly end. It is a day that exposed the fragility of our safety and the devastating cost of letting our most vulnerable fall through the cracks. Thank you for watching. Take care, and see you next time.